It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. The 2022 growing season has been a roller coaster, to say the least. But what if I told you that you could add another revenue stream for your farm? Harvest Hosts connects over 200,000 RVers to a network of thousands of farms, wineries, breweries, and small businesses. Hosts simply offer RVers a one-night stay on their farm, and in return, RVers patronize the host business. The program is a cost-free opportunity, and 100% of the money spent on site goes straight to the host. In 2021, members spent more than $40 million across host locations. If you don't sell produce or products on your farm, no problem. You can get creative with what you can offer travelers, create farm experiences, sell farm-branded swag, and even receive tips. Hosts can accept or deny stay requests, manage the number of RVs, and set blackout dates. No hookups or services are required to host. Visit harvesthosts.com/hosts. That's harvesthosts.com/hosts for more information and to apply to become a host today. Hi, and welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guest today earned his bachelor's degree in agriculture business management at North Carolina State University. He was Forbes 30 Under 30 award winner in 2018, and he's the founder and CEO of Growers, which is a leading ag tech company with the mission of putting easy-to-use technology in the hands of every farmer, advisor, and ag seller in the industry. From Durham, North Carolina, I would like to welcome Stephen Valenson. Welcome, Stephen, and thank you so much for being here.
No, I appreciate you inviting me on your show.
So let's first talk about your background. Did you grow up in the agriculture industry?
I did. So yeah, I was born in Washington State. I actually grew up on a family farm there, and then kind of mid-childhood moved to South Dakota, which is where my family still resides. Wasn't involved, directly in a family farm there, but just kind of stayed involved and plugged into the ag scene. So I call South Dakota home. That's where I grew up, and then I left right after high school and actually joined the military, and that's what brought me out to the East Coast. And then I ended up at NC State. And so here I am. That's where I met my wife, and getting her to move back to South Dakota was a tough sell. I'll never know why. But we ended up staying in North Carolina, and that's where we've been ever since.
That's awesome. So how did Growers start? Where did this idea come from, and what is it all about?
Yeah. So Growers is actually kind of a spin out of an earlier business that I started while I was at school at NC State. There was a interesting opportunity that I thought was in the area of soil testing, because there was only one state-run laboratory here in the state, and the turnaround time was pretty slow, and so people were sending soil tests to all these other labs outside of North Carolina. And I was like, hey, this would be a great, business opportunity. So I started a soil testing lab. Actually, it was the first privately owned lab in the state of North Carolina. And I did that my junior year in school and ran that for a few years. And honestly, it was like, as I was getting that business started, ag retailers and agronomists were my primary customer, but I also had to go out and just to keep volume of samples coming into the lab, I started offering a service of, consulting with farmers and doing soil testing for them. This was, early 2000s. So it would have been around 2007 or 2008 when this was happening. So the advent of like variable rate technology and GPS, guided soil sampling programs was like a thing, but it wasn't, very, very, popular, certainly not as it is today. So, long story short, or short story long, Growers was birthed really out of the services that I was providing as a part of the soil testing laboratory. And that was really where my passion was, is getting to work, hand in hand with farmers and helping them integrate the technology, the data, and the agronomy together to make better, decisions on their input purchases. And so had an opportunity to sell the soil testing lab to a partner that I started with. And then that's when I founded Growers, which was in 2012. So we started as a services business and scaled that kind of here in the Southeast, and then eventually nationally. And that led us into kind of discovering and seeing some of the challenges that existed with the kind of current technology systems that were on the market then or on the market now. And we thought we had a unique vantage point into the problems that farmers, their advisors, and retailers were facing, and started developing technology to solve some of those problems. So it's been full circle from soil testing lab to high-end kind of boutique consulting to managed services to now almost exclusively software development. We still service a small portion of farmers here in North Carolina, customers that I've been working with literally since the beginning. So they are, how we keep our fingers on the pulse and that, deeply rooted connection to the actual producers that we're trying to help, albeit through their ag retail advisor channel right now.
Wow, that's incredible. What a journey so far. Yeah. And let's dig a little bit deeper into the different types of clients that you serve. So let's start with farms. Do you offer solutions for both large and small farms, or are you more just for large farms? What is your target?
Yeah, great question. So our primary target right now is actually the ag retail market. The farmers that we do serve, though, currently are they kind of do range the gamut. Really, it's less about the size of the organization or operation. It's more about the mindset and the willingness to adopt, new technology and leveraging technology to make better decisions. So we have customers that are, tens of thousands of acres, and then some that are less than 1,000. But the mindset of those individual operators is similar in that they're constantly pushing the envelope, trying to leverage, all of the data and technology that they, that is available to them, used to make smart agronomic decisions. And we have a team of people here at Growers that provide those services directly to farmers. And consequently, it's a big part of our, business strategy and product development roadmap of making sure that even the things that we're doing that impact ag retailers, which is the primary client base that we serve, ultimately they all have to benefit the farmer, right? Because we all have to provide value at the farmer level in order to kind of create the, the value that we think we can have in the industry. So it's very important to us that we maintain that connection and that conduit with these farmers that really helped Growers, become what it is today.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with the data overload that's happening these days, how are you helping farmers manage all of that that's coming in? They can measure everything now, but what's important and how do they make those decisions?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is data overload. It's turned into quite a problem. And so, the team is really focused on helping them kind of sort, not to overuse an ag pun, right, but the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Right. And because there is a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of data that you can get really confused about, right? And it's kind of this balancing act of trying to separate the correlations and the causations, right, to make sure that we're actually looking at the right level of layers of data and the right variables that are actually impacting the thing that we're trying to change, and making sure you don't kind of go tearing off down a path to adjusting too many things at once. So it's a very delicate balancing act. It requires I think a very acute understanding of data analytics, agronomy, but then also an understanding of what this farm's individual kind of goals and objectives are, because everybody's a little bit different and they're all kind of trying to manage different variables, both variables in the environment and the weather and their ecosystem and in their operation, but also, variables in what their operational objectives are, whether they're growing for quality or quantity or, you name it. So that's the reason that those type of businesses, and that's the reason we kind of made this big shift into technologies. It's actually really difficult to provide that level of value that I think is absolutely needed at scale, right? Because it just takes a ton of time and energy to like digest all of that information. But it's created this, category of services, or, kind of this whole consulting sort of industry that serves farmers because they need that level of help. There's just too many things going on. I'm a big advocate that like all farmers need a true trusted advisor and partner in their operation to help them, sort through that stuff and make those decisions, because you'll never find anybody that believes more in the value of it than I do. But unfortunately, not a lot of that value is making it all the way back to the farmer, because, there's just a lot of shortcomings in the accuracy of the data. There's too much of it, too much noise is being created. It's kind of turning some people off, right? It's just like too overwhelming. I don't want to deal with it, which is the real challenge. So those are kind of the ways that we're approaching that problem and trying to help our farmer customers navigate this, environment that we're in.
Yeah, those are some really good points. I was talking to the CEO of Farm Credit Canada, JP Gervais, last week, and he made a really good point, and that was that the farmer is really the CEO of a business, and they don't have to have all the answers. They need to have the right people and the right team to help guide. And do you agree with that?
I mean, I hadn't ever heard it articulated that way, honestly, but I 1000% agree with it. That is exactly it. And it would I think it would serve a lot of farmers well. I mean, that's the reality, right? It's like they are the CEO of their business, but very few of them look at themselves as that way. Right. So I mean, that would be a huge encouragement to farmers, right? Or my encouragement, right? Would be to take that position, right? Own that mentality. That's who you are. That's what you're doing. Right. And then figure out who's your mid-level management, who's on your executive team, that is going to help you kind of bring this information and help you kind of parse through all these decisions. Because unfortunately, a lot of them are out there going it alone. And that's a tough row to hoe. Again, sorry for the egg puns, but
yeah. So what about serving the egg retail space? So what do you have to offer retailers?
Yeah. I think, maybe it's probably important to make the distinction of like why we ended up here, because, you stated it in the intro, and it's a big part of like our vision, right? Is that we want to put technology in the hands of every farmer, advisor, and buyer in agriculture, because we think that the role that technology will play in the future, right, I think is going to be more wrapped around helping bring efficiency to the business of farming and providing farmers access to the things that they need to be more successful. So when we looked at this like sphere of influence, right, this like advisor circle of people that touch farmers directly, right, they have a banker and an insurance agent and a retailer, and some of them have an agronomist, and they've got a landowner, maybe throw in your seed guy or chemical guy, right? They have this like kind of ring of advisors. And as we looked at, kind of that whole ring, and we thought about like which one of those has the greatest impact on the farmer, touches the most of them, which ones have, the most relationships with farmers, the answer is it's the ag retail, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're farming in central Iowa, central North Carolina, or in, Nicaragua, you're buying seed, fertilizer, and chemical from somebody. It looks different in different parts of the country, but if you're growing, crops for commercial production, not just like substance farming, you have a relationship with somebody that's selling you those things. And as we kind of took a step back here several years ago, I was like, how can we make the greatest impact overall, not just in our backyard or in our country, but globally, to individual farmers? It's, provide their advisors, the ones that touch all the farmers, the tools that they need to be more successful, to serve their farmers better. And so that's when we had a pretty fundamental shift in our business strategy, as well as our technology roadmap, to building products that are really designed to help make it easier for ag retailers to do business with farmers. Because we spent 12 years working shoulder to shoulder with these guys and gals in the industry. And so we kind of saw some of the challenges that were there. And that's what we built, into our platform, which we call Growers Rally. And so Growers Rally is a software that ag retailers use that kind of help them do the four things that are most important to their business, which is increase their sales and margins, and then minimize the impact of customer and employee churn, right? So it's like we're kind of impacting both sides of the balance sheet, helping them sort of optimize the products and the programs and the portfolios of things that they're offering to farmers, while also making sure that we're creating a repository of data that when employees leave, right, for instance, because turnover is a huge problem right now in retail, that knowledge and information that they had on how these farmers like to be served and what products they like to use and purchase, and like all of that transactional data isn't lost, so that a new person can fill that slot, adds a ton of value to the retailer. But honestly, it's the farmer that benefits, right? Because I've been in these conversations before. Like, their hearts break when they know that like the number one guy that they loved left to go work for this other company, and like their thought is like, well, shoot, I didn't really like that company, but now I got to go work with him again because they're choosing the person, not the company, right? Yeah. So it's a challenge, and it's kind of everybody loses when you lose that visibility into this interaction between which is a very like cherished and special relationship between a farmer and his retail advisor. So our platform captures all of that and brings a ton of business and operational value to retailers. But at the end of the day, it's the farmers that get served better by technically our clients, right? Our ag retail customers that are using our product to serve farmers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. That's really great. I help companies and manufacturers set up CRMs. And for the exact same reason, you have somebody leave and you lose all of the information about how that customer wants to be treated. And so that's really incredible that there's something for ag retailers specifically. I think that's really incredible.
Well, yeah. If you think about it in the industry as a whole, like there's so much head knowledge in this space. And that head knowledge is literally what like is making the world go around, and all of the solving some of these like global kind of food and climate crises and whatnot. So it's trying to extract some of that information and put it into a more digestible, secure, and translatable format is a big challenge, but I think it's one that's paying off dividends.
Absolutely. And I think we can agree that the last couple of years have been difficult, but hard times create innovation. So how are you seeing both retailers and producers innovate this year to protect their crops and their profit margins? What are you seeing?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it has, admittedly, it's been challenging for everybody. It has served our business and our business model well, because it's like, you think about the risk, right, that has been introduced in the last 2 years with kind of supply chain instability and lack of availability of certain products, volatile pricing swings on every spectrum of the commodity side, whether it's on the actual output, grains and oilseed type crops, or it's on the inputs, right, the fertilizers, of course. That volatility introduces a ton of risk. And oftentimes the way that you can kind of best manage risk, right, is having a plan, right? Like any financial advisor, right? That's what they're doing, is they're coming up with a plan on how we should think about, managing your investments and this and that. And that's a really hard thing to ask really anybody in agriculture to do, because they're like, wow, it's so variable, right? And everything changes. And like, it depends on the weather, of course, and it depends on the commodity prices. And I don't know if I'm going to get access to that land this year. So all of those variables basically kind of push people back from creating these cohesive plans. And then when you introduce all this volatility, kind of everything sort of gets shaken, right? And that's what happened in 2022, 2020 and kind of 2021. And we're seeing a little bit of that in 2022. And I would anticipate that it's going to continue for the next, 12 to 18 months at least. So how we're dealing with it, right, is like, that's one of the core functions of the platform that we've built, is like, no, let's actually take both some agronomic and transactional data from farmers. And these retailers are using it to sit down with their customers and say, hey, I've spent some time thinking about your operation. Here's the knowns and the things that we can control. Here's the unknowns and the things we can't control. Let's create a couple different scenarios so that way we're ready on game day, no matter if this, or this happens. And to accomplish that practically, right, there's just a ton of moving pieces, and it's difficult to do. And the folks that do it well today are like managing it in tons and tons of spreadsheets and notes and PowerPoints and different types of software programs. And so we really kind of distilled all of that down to one and built this really awesome tool for kind of having that collaborative conversation with farmers. Like, let's sit down and talk about your plan. Let's start assigning costs and thinking about each individual pass as you go across the field and what products are going out with that. And the value proposition here is kind of twofold, right? So the retailer is thinking about it in terms of like, I'm getting a chance to put together a cohesive agronomic, financially sound program for my farmer customer that ultimately revolves around the inputs that I'm selling him that need to go out to take care of these needs. The farmer gets the benefit of saying like, hey, somebody actually took the time to think about what would work best for my particular operation. They were transparent about pricing and cost and what the overall impact are going to be. I can see all of that right now, and I have multiple different options. I can now make a choice based on my comfort level or risk threshold on what direction I want to go forward. So it's like strengthening that advisor relationship has been a huge opportunity for a lot of advisors this year, because tons of risk, tons of unknown, everybody needs help. And so building a platform that the two kind of parties can collaborate on has been a huge hit.
Yeah, that is excellent. And, in my life, when I'm consulting with ag companies, I'm always looking at more efficient sales and marketing process, right? So I'm seeing more and more a need for tech and software solutions that serve the whole company, not just marketing, not just, risk management, not just selling, not just planting, but really serving the entire company. So I feel like that's what Growers is offering.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because it is a fine line that like technology companies have to walk, right? I'm sure from your background and your experience in the sales, marketing, the CRM platforms and whatnot, there's this like urge that we say it all the time. It's like, I just want all my data in one place, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, makes tons of sense. But usually what happens is on the technology side is that the technology that actually can accomplish that becomes so complicated and convoluted that then people start to actually back away from it because they're like, this is overwhelming, right? There's lots of CRMs and ERPs out there that can do anything in the world almost. But they're, it's just sort of like Excel, right? Where it's like everybody utilizes about 4% of Excel's total capabilities because it can do so much, but nobody exactly knows how.
Yeah. And it's scary. And
that's right. And so the line that we've tried to walk is like, can we integrate and connect with data sources where needed and bring that information, actively into our platform that doesn't require, manual entry or duplicative work? And then can we create just enough value in a single platform where I can get all of the key data points and information that I need to make the best operational decision possible?
Right.
Then can we communicate those decisions back to those other, software solutions, if need be, to make sure that everything stays updated? It's a problem that is uniquely ours and other technology companies' job to solve. But it is not an easy one in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's really key though, because with these really high input costs and high commodity prices, you don't have anywhere to move over here. But if you can make, your operation more efficient, then you can, have better profit margin. And I think that really is the key right now.
You nailed it. And I think it's a lot of people generally understand that, but when you think about it in terms of as a farmer, right, you're growing the same crop as your neighbor or your, competitor 4 states over. You have access to nearly the same inputs, probably around the same price point relatively, right? And so it's like your differentiator as a operator is on your cost of production, in which ultimately relates to your efficiency, right? It's like, how efficient can we turn inputs into outputs, and can we do that more economically than anybody else in our geography, which is how farmers technically kind of compete with each other. What we saw though, which is kind of interesting, is that ag retailers have been doing a phenomenal job helping farmers move down that continuum of thinking about operational efficiency and maximizing, kind of inputs and outputs using all this technology to get, better results, but they've spent so much time pouring out and serving farmers that and then they go back to their 1970s era ERP where they're doing 11 different steps just to get an invoice created for a farmer, So it's they need to take a moment of self-reflection and be like, wow, we've been doing such a good job helping our farmers. Now we need to actually help ourselves. and kind of they need to get caught up a little bit on this technology kind of adoption continuum, if you want to call it that. And that's what we see as a good opportunity for us to sort of be their partner and help them honestly get up to speed to where a lot of the farmers are. I mean, it's kind of remarkable to think how much technology advancement has happened in the production side of agriculture and how little has happened in the business side of agriculture.
Yeah, I agree. You think of robotics and automation and the way things are working in farms these days and in precision ag. But the really working on your business is the same thing.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's precisely what we're trying to help a lot of the retailers that we serve navigate is let's take some of that great access to technology that does exist and they're using, by the way, in their personal lives, right? And let's bring it into their professional lives as well. So it's been a fun challenge.
For sure. And then on a broader note, I guess, how important is it to address the need for more efficient food production to meet the needs of the world?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has never been less important than, or more important than it is now. I want to make sure I said that properly. Yeah. And I think one of the things that we all learned the hard way in the past 2 years is just how fragile our food, global food supply chain is. I don't think anybody could have predicted, right, that you could kind of break it or tear it down so fast and how much disruption it caused, whether it was just the availability of products or the price of products, or, the price that, the wild swings that commodities and grains have taken, just given, kind of all these global socioeconomic problems. So I think everybody kind of took a little bit of a reality check and said, holy crap, this is a lot more unstable than we probably thought it was. And I think it's, really, really important that we kind of take all of those lessons seriously and start thinking again about, let's have a better plan, right? Yeah. Let's be more proactive. Let's actually think about the value of forecasting, right? And understanding and having a business model or a business plan on kind of what we're going to do and all of these different scenarios. It's all things that a lot of other industries deal with on the regular. Agriculture's been, I think, very, it's the reason I'm in the industry, because it literally makes the world go around, right? So you can't do anything without it, but we've been maybe a little bit, blindsided, or I guess, I don't know what the right explanation
complacent, maybe.
Yeah. Complacent. Thank you. Yeah. Exactly. We've been a little bit complacent. Mm-hmm. We got a real quick reality check that okay, this is scary, and we need to make sure we can plan accordingly, moving forward. And thankfully, there's a ton of organizations, operations, agribusinesses that are absolutely doing that right now, which is great. And I think will help weather storms in the future a lot easier. Yeah,
I agree. And you touched on this earlier, but labor is a big challenge. What do you think that farms can do to help with this? It's, gets more and more complicated every year, right? And ag retailers as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think it's a compounding sort of issue for farmers, especially because it's traditionally a very rural kind of remote type of, environment. So the labor pool in a lot of the geographies that these farmers are operating is just naturally always going to be small. And there's a lot of things that I think farmers are doing for a totally different purpose, i.e. adopting new technology and trying to increase the efficiency of their operation, which actually kind of in turn is making them, more of an employer of choice, right? So I saw this from a real large commercial strawberry grower in California that had moved from, basically moved strawberries from the ground to, almost shoulder high. Right. Wow. They were growing them in these raised beds. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It must be a lot easier to grow it. And the gentleman that was talking to us about it was they did it almost purely because if you were a worker whose job it is to pick strawberries, which strawberry do you want to pick? Is it the one that you can reach your arm out standing up and pick, or is it the one you have to bend over for 8 hours?
Good point.
So it's like there's some innovation happening in agriculture that's actually helping kind of win hearts and minds of the labor force, so to speak. So I've seen, operations that are doing a really good job with the advent of, social media, of course, and just the explosion of it. Of doing a really good job, like marketing, themselves and their operations. And I think that is helping. We've seen that firsthand. But then the other part on the more of the agribusiness side, which we touch, is sort of what we mentioned earlier, is like preparing for those transitions when they ultimately happen. It's a very competitive market, making sure that you're capturing as much of that head knowledge as you possibly can. But I will say this is like, we have had people in our business serving ag retailers, right, that like have literally told us that they're using our platform because they want to be an employer of choice as well amongst other competitive organizations. A lot of turnover in ag retail happens because salespeople don't have access to the resources that they need to be successful. And like, there's nothing more demoralizing as a salesperson than watching somebody else come in and take your business because they had access to accurate pricing faster than you did, or, transaction time is shrinking in this business. So like being responsive and attentive to customers or farmers' needs is really important. Like, we're seeing huge deals, right? Simply because somebody showed up with the right price or the right amount of product at the right time. And so if you're the guy that your business doesn't have those type of tools, and you're making 15 phone calls to figure out what's the current price of potash, meanwhile the guy who's like, I got it on my phone, I'll give it to you right now, I can have it delivered by the end of the day. Farmers are choosing to do business with people that are the easiest to do business with, and we do that in our subconsciously, we do it in our own personal lives. So I think, again, I'm biased, but not to keep doing that, like technology can solve a lot of these problems. I really think it can. And we're seeing, glimpses of that right now.
That's awesome. So where can people find you?
Best place to just be, on our website, which is just growers, growers.ag, ag. And we've got a lot of information about our platform, a couple different products that we have or modules of it. And then we've got a phenomenal team that puts out a lot of material and blogs and just different sort of white pages on sort of some of these challenges that even you and I have chatted about today. And there's a wealth of information. And of course, we'd love to talk to anybody that's interested in learning more. That's awesome. And I have one last question for you. What are you most passionate about? Why do you serve the agriculture industry? Yeah. So this is pretty much the only thing I know. I tell people kind of half joking that I'd probably be good at nothing else. I've been involved, in agriculture pretty much my whole life. And my real conviction for it is like having kind of seen it full spectrum, right? As a growing up on a farm, and then I farm here in North Carolina as well. So like being an operator myself, and then starting and having these businesses that are kind of on the fringes of production agriculture and touching all of these folks. It's like the challenge of production agriculture is real, and it's so stinking hard. And having lived through that at all of these different angles just gives me this like really deep conviction that like this is an industry that it's very challenging to make a living at it. And I think there's a huge opportunity to leverage, technology that's been benefiting other industries and kind of bring that into agriculture. And so, my passion is making it easier to do business with farmers and making it easier for farmers to do business with their advisors. And that's squarely what we're doing with our technology platform and products. So we've got a long way to go, but really, really excited about, where we're headed, given where we've been. So I'm looking forward to it. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. What a great conversation. And there's so much to think about in this industry and so many ways to serve, right? Absolutely. No, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Enjoyed it. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, all the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to our North American Ag Spotlight YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, or AgFuse channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day.
Thanks so much for listening to today's Ag Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening. Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.